Alright, what's up everybody? So in today's video, I wanted to share some of my reasons behind why I personally would not go out and buy the new Universal Audio Apollo Solo. And look, I understand this video is going to be controversial. I know that there is a lot of you Universal Audio fanboys out there, but listen, just hear me out till the end of the video, and I really want to make this video more of a discussion. So if you can change my mind, I would encourage you to do so. I would genuinely like to know what you see in the Apollo Solo. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump straight into the video. Now, the first reason why I wouldn't personally go out and get the new Apollo Solo is that it's really not anything new to begin with. It is simply the Arrow that has been rebranded as the Apollo Solo. Now, I would ask you guys, do you remember when the Arrow came out? Most of you guys will not know what I'm talking about, and that is exactly why they ended up rebranding it as the Apollo Solo. It is essentially the same interface, the Arrow, just rebranded as the Apollo Solo, so that the majority of people out there that know Universal Audio for the Apollo interfaces would be able to recognize the new Apollo Solo. Now, when I heard the announcement of the Apollo Solo, I was thinking that this was some new thing. I wasn't thinking that this was the Arrow rebranded as the Apollo Solo. So it kind of was a letdown. I was hoping that there was going to be some new technology with the Apollo Solo and it would convince me to go out and swap out my Audience ID 22 for the Apollo Solo. But simply the case, that's not what it is. It is the Arrow rebranded as the Apollo Solo. Another reason why I wouldn't go out and buy the Solo is if we take a look at the specs between a much cheaper and honestly better interface, the Motu M2, the Motu M2 outspecs the Apollo Solo. If you look at them side by side and take a look at the spec sheet, the Motu M2, which is a fraction of the price of the Apollo Solo, outperforms the Solo. At that point, the only reason why you would go out and buy the Solo over the M2 is for the ability to use all the Universal Audio plugins. Most of you guys already know this, but in order to use the Universal Audio plugins, you have to have a interface by UA. That's the only way that you can use their interfaces, or if you have their DSP accelerator. But again, those are all very expensive. So when you're buying the interfaces, really at the end of the day, you should be buying them because you want to use the plugins that come with those interfaces, or you're interested in just the whole Universal Audio ecosystem. One of the biggest reasons why I wouldn't go out and buy the Solo is simply the price point. It is way too high for what you get. Again, for $169, you can go out and get the Motu M2, which has just as equally good specs as the Solo, if not better. And it's a fraction of the price. You could save that money, buy a preamp, you could buy more plugins. And again, the only reason why, in my opinion, you'd go out and buy the Solo or really any Universal Audio interface is because you want to take advantage of the plugins. You are buying your way into the plugin ecosystem. Speaking of the price point on the Solo, if you were to save up just a little extra money and go buy the Twin USB or the Twin Thunderbolt, you would be buying features on the Twin that actually make it reasonable to go out and buy a Universal Audio interface. On the Twin, you get the option for line outs so that basically you can route your audio from your DAW into analog equipment. So if ever in the future you decided you wanted to get a preamp or an outboard compressor or an outboard EQ, you would have the ability to route your audio with the Twin when you can't do that on the Solo. So once you're using the Solo, you're hindered to basically working inside the box. There is no routing outside and using analog equipment. However, with the Twin, that is an option. You could in the future end up doing something like that. And trust me, when you start getting into outboard gear, it is an amazing world to adventure in. There is a lot of awesome equipment out there that does make a noticeable difference in your recording. Not to mention the DSP between the two interfaces, since that is absolutely a selling point with Universal Audio interfaces. The DSP on the Solo is horrendous compared to the Twin. I actually saw a video where a guy was testing out the Solo and he was putting plugins into his DAW and seeing basically how many he could put in before his interface gave up. It had no more room to run any more universal audio plugins. And I think he was able to put like one instance of auto tune, an LA2A, a preamp, and maybe an EQ, a Pultec EQ plugin. So 4 plugins, 5 plugins, and that was it. He maxed out his DSP. He couldn't use any more universal audio plugins. Now, if you have the Twin, you can add substantially more plugins, and that is something that is invaluable. That is very, very important to have, especially with these interfaces where you're buying it because you're getting into all of the universal audio plugins. That is very important. You will run out of space very quickly on the Solo. On the Twin, that's a little bit less of a problem. You should be okay, but on the Solo, it's absolutely atrocious. You're gonna be stuck with only using 3, 4, 5 plugins at max before your DSP is completely maxed out. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to hop on here and share some of my thoughts on the new Apollo Solo. I know it's been getting a lot of attention because it's the newest audio interface from Universal Audio. And all emotional attachment aside, I know that there are a lot of UA fanboys out here that are making this audio interface to be something bigger than it really is, and its biggest competition is the Motu M2. For where it is priced at right now, currently, it is unbeatable. There is no other audio interface on the market that does it like the Motu M2. Again, there is a reason why the Motu M2 is sold out right now. If I was you, save your money, wait for Universal Audio to drop an audio interface that is actually worth the price tag. In my opinion, it is not worth $500. If this was a $250, $300 max audio interface, then we would have an argument. Then possibly I would agree that that is an audio interface that is worth the price tag. Anyways, guys, that about wraps it up. If you haven't already yet, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you can stay notified for whenever I release my videos. With all that being said, I will see you guys all in my next video. Take care. Peace out.